Episode 84. It's another episode of Spencer Uncensored. This means we've had 83 other episodes in the past where we sat down and talked about mindset, mechanics, movement. We've talked about drift to drive. We've talked about the qualified champion. We've done a lot of conversations here, and really it's because we believe that professional development, your ability to excel in the business world, be a leader, and really help drive other people to their highest and best possible potential requires personal development, because professional development always happens on the backside of personal development. So we've been here having these discussions for well over a year now, 84 episodes now. That means, by the way, good to see you guys. Daniel's in the house. Zach's in the house. Good to have you guys. So all over the country, New Jersey to California, I'm glad you're here. This is what we do. We help business leaders increase and get the fast track on profit, productivity, and purpose, because they're all intertied. We're here to help you guys move forward. Tonight, we're going to talk about 6 criteria that's required when we're doing goals. And I know that sounds like something that's so old hat, but here's the thing. People are fucking this up all the time. It is an uncensored show, guys. They're just messing it up all the time. And so I want to go through some very specific things you need to consider, because especially the real estate industry, we're getting ready to start talking about goals. The last 4 months of the year for me, actually going all the way into like February, this is like prime season for me. I love this portion of the year because we really capitalize on a lot of factors going on, and real estate agents especially get a huge bump in their business when they do all the things we talk about, because we're getting ready to go through the practical planning process next month, and then we're going to deploy all the activities necessary to go through October, November, December to get you in the right place for January. And then we do the 5 holiday tactics with the 6th bonus. Like, all these things are getting ready to come up, and I'm super excited about it. But we're still in August. Hey, I get it. We're here. Brian Mackey's in the house. Good to see you, man. So we're glad you're here. And tonight, I'm going to share with you that information about goals. But before I do all of that, let me give you guys a quick little heads up. All this writing on the board behind me is the 3 days that we do at the Unshakable weekend event. This is basically a quick little review for me, because I'm going through it, figuring out the timelines and so on. That's happening in Columbia, South Carolina this weekend on Friday. We're excited about that one. It's actually the first one we've ever done in a 3-day format like this, full-on immersion. I sent out an email, by the way, to a bunch of you guys that said, this is why your training sucks or it's not working. It's because people go to classes for information, and then a very small group of the people that get that information actually implement, right? We've all been there. We've learned a bunch of things, right? And then we don't ever do anything with it. And then but there's a third level that is required to see any kind of results from any kind of training you go through, and that's integration. You got to take that information and get it into you and create habits and systems and processes to make sure that it stays with you, right? So that's why we like doing immersion programs, live, in-person immersion programs. So we got that going on. And the book, Momentum and Mastery, has been up for pre-order. You're more than welcome to go get it. It's over at momentumandmastery.com. Feel free to go over there and pick your copy up. By the way, it's basically free. The only thing we're asking you to pay for is the shipping and handling and all that stuff, because I'm going to be personally sending those to you when you buy it from momentumandmastery.com. Now, you can go over to Amazon and pay like $20. That's up to you. Or you can get it from me. It's up to you. All right. But anyway, and by the way, when you get it from me, we send you a digital copy too. So let's get into this tonight. When someone talks about goals, I think we all know, especially as business leaders, we know we're supposed to have goals. We know we're supposed to go do, I should have some intentions for the business and so on. But I think most of the time it's a very blanketed statement. Maybe drop it in the comments, or maybe, throw it in here if you're watching this later on. Tell us what your experience is with goals. Like, how do you feel about goals and having them? The truth is that a lot of people have them and don't actually meet them. So they're not goals, they're actually wishes. And then there's a lot of people that don't have goals. That just kind of like, I'm just going to do the best I can with what I have, because I don't want to let myself down like that. I just don't like doing that. And I'm not going to say that any one of those are wrong necessarily, But if you're really looking to get out of whatever drift you're in and actually break free and create a whole nother level of results, you're going to only get that. You're only going to see that when you set yourself an intention or create some, you have a dream, you focus on, you line up your desires, then you get disturbed enough that you actually make a decision to move forward, and then you get into mastery. That's what momentum and mastery is about. But tonight I want to give you 6 specific criteria for a super strong goal that you can run through. Okay, these are questions, and it's going to take a little bit of time to really unpack it. Now, we'll tell you that everything we do in momentum and mastery actually meets all of this criteria. It's just I'm going to give it to you in a different setup. Okay, so there's some questions you need to ask yourself. Question number 1, if you're taking notes tonight, question number 1: what specifically do I want? What do you want? Listen, how many times I'll go into people's conversation and they'll say things like, well, I don't want to be broke. That's not the question. The question is not what don't you want. The question is what do you want? First thing you need to understand is that your goal always has to be stated in the positive frame. If it's not stated in positive frame, your brain won't know how to get you there, right? So if I talk about what I don't want, right? I don't want to have another year like I just did. Okay, well, what does that mean? Your brain immediately kicks in and creates pictures and automatically has words and phrases and sounds and all this stuff that your mind creates to recreate what last year looked like so that you can then clarify what I don't want. And unfortunately, whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of. We've all heard that before, haven't we? What you focus on expands, right? What you get more of, whatever you focus on. Where focus goes, energy flows. All those phrases that we've all heard. The truth is that we too often state our goals in a position of moving away. What are you moving towards? What do you want? And have you actually laid out what that means? Which brings me to number 2. This is super useful too, by the way, when you're talking to prospects and you're working with, if you got team members and people that you're helping, move forward. People talk in generalities and they really don't know. How would they know when they had it? So number 2, if you're writing this down, how would I know if I had that? Right? So if the answer to question 1 was, I want to increase my income by 50%, well, that should be pretty clear. How would I know when I had that, right? I want $50,000 more. I want $100,000. I want to get an extra 250. Whatever that number is, if you don't know how you actually, how would you know if you had it? Let me give it to you in a context, like a sales discussion, like in the real estate world, because all the people that just popped in a minute ago, you're all in real estate. I just happen to know you guys. So when someone says, I don't want to give it away, I'm not going to give my house away. What does that person mean by that? Many times you'll hear me rephrase it back to them in a positive way so that I can get question number 1 covered, right? So when you say you don't want to give it away, what I'm hearing is you want to maximize and get the most for the house. Is that correct? And they're going to say yes. Then question 2, how would I know when I had that? Meaning, so I know you guys want to get the most out of it. What would be the most out of it for you guys? What are you thinking? This creates clarity. If you're not doing that in your presentations and you're not really having a consultation, you're just having a presentation. You're going in there doing your little song and dance. But you should be having a consult, right? This is also true for insurance. How many times, insurance agents will get on a phone call and begin to work on building a quote with someone, and they don't ask deep enough questions to really figure out what this person wants. This is how we educate. We ask questions. What do you want? How would you know if you had that? Right? The third question is where, when, and with whom. Now, this is really a conversation around an ecology check. If you remember back in the day, this is ecology, okay? If you remember back in the day when you're like 4th grade science or something, you used to draw there was like a pond, and it would show how a piece of algae in that pond would get eaten by the tadpole. The tadpole got bigger and became a frog. And then the frog got out of the water, and then a bird ate the frog, and then something else ate the bird, and then something else ate that, and then that died and went into the dirt, and then it, eventually, fed back to the algae. It was like this big ecology, right? There was a circle that was going on. How one thing impacted the other thing, right? So the water, if you tainted the water, it would taint it would kill the other animals. There was all this interconnection going on. Here's how this applies in goal setting. When was the last time you sat down and asked yourself, when I do this thing, right? When I go after this goal, how is that going to impact every other part of my life? Is it going to impact my spiritual part of my life? How is it going to impact my relationships? What about my health? See, there's a lot of times that we choose to put goals out there for ourselves and don't pay attention to the impact it's going to have with everything else in our life, or the other people in our life, or the other resources in our life. And so we need to kind of measure or do a little check and balance where that's concerned. This is especially true, and let's keep it with the real estate folks. When a spouse says we want to do this with the house, if you don't actually have a conversation with the other spouse, right? You're not doing a full-on ecology check to make sure how all this is going on. This is how I'm able to get into a conversation and get really good conversion on the phone. Because when I'm listening, I'm also paying attention to all the other parts of their life that's going to get affected, right? Well, I'm supposed to have I'm trying to think of an example right now. If you got an example, feel free to drop it in the comments. But this is, if somebody tells me they're going to wait because of I'll use an example I just got on one of the group calls I had earlier this week, right? Somebody's looking to move or actually buy a second property in Orlando for their daughter who is going to be going to college. And they want to buy it and let the daughter live in it through college and then be able to have a short-term rental situation and so on. Well, all that sounds theoretically cool. But then the conversation that I was able to come up with in that was, where else are you looking? What happens if you don't? If she doesn't go to UCF? Is there any reason why anything would stop you from actually investing in property now, 2 years in advance? Because this child apparently is not going to college till 27, right? That's me working through an ecology check. I'm checking to see what else is going to get impacted by this conversation, right? If you guys want to sell your house, let's talk about, you want to sell? Okay, great. Where are you guys going to go? It's not uncommon for us to sell something kind of quickly. Would you have a plan in place if we sold it in the next 2 weeks? You can watch their face. They're going, what? Yes, that's entirely possible. When that happens, what would be your next step? I'm looking to make sure that we're all on the same page, because those kind of things can actually just destroy their goal of selling the house. So I need to figure out and make sure I get all that cleaned up and I have the ecology check in place. I'm trusting that makes sense to you. Where, when, and with whom do you want it? Basically has to do with what's going on. How is this going to impact everybody else around you, everything else around you? What about your job? What about your commute, right? Somebody says to me, I want to live in this part of town. Well, I know you work over on that part of town. How does is that drive going to be an issue? Or is 30 minutes normal for you on a commute, right? I'm looking to find ways to make sure that the ecology is in check. Because when you mess with one part of the system, it messes with all the parts of the system. The other part that this actually does, in fact, also touch on is that sometimes people set goals that aren't, I wouldn't say realistic, but the ecology conversation from a timeline can become a problem. Right. Tony, I mentioned him last week with you guys. Tony says, if I had a goal to lose 30 pounds and I wanted to do it overnight, could I? The answer is actually yes. But is it ecologically wise? No. because I could cut one of my legs off and lose 30 pounds. But then what happens to my body? I'm walking around on one leg. It makes no sense. So there's a lot of times we set goals for ourselves and don't think about all the ecology that goes on with it. There's a lot of things that might be possible. Is it really the wisest thing to be doing? Number 4, what stops you from having your desired outcome already? Now that question is a good question to ask yourself, because if you could and you're not, then there's obviously one of two things going on. You're either not doing the activities to get you there, or there's something that's required. What stops you from having it already? There, which brings you to number 5. What resources will you need to help create what you want? Now, these resources conversation we talk about in Momentum and Mastery. There are things you need. There are things you don't need. There are things you have and the things you don't have. And you need to find, there's a little quadrant there on things we're going to purge, things we're going to prioritize, things that we're going to plan for, things that we're going to protect ourselves from, right? This is all straight out of the book. But what I want you to understand is when you're setting yourself up with a goal, there might be some resources. And when we say resources, it could be a certain kind of knowledge. Maybe you need a certain training. Maybe there's a certain amount of time. There's most definitely probably time involved, right? How much time? Is there a certain level of experience I need to have to get this goal that I'm after, right? Do I need to exercise a certain muscle, right? Get experience. And that's a big deal, by the way. There's one of my coaching clients now. He's a CEO. He has a salesperson on his staff that he wants to move into commercial. And so, the conversation is, well, we need to do a lot of training and we need to get this. I said, it doesn't need training, he needs experience. And so the only way to get experience is to just get out there and have conversations. Yes, you can do the training as well, the knowledge piece, right? The expertise. But at the same time, you cannot get rid of the fact experience is required, right? So experience could be money. Is there certain money that needs to be involved to create this result? Is it somebody I need to know? Contacts, people I need to know. I need to get to know, right? Or is there a certain kind of support I've got to have, and so on. Sometimes when we do these ecological checks and we start going into resources and figuring all this stuff out, it could be that we need to rearrange some things in our family. I got another client right now that, they're building out support systems within the family to make sure that the kids are taken care of so that they can go do what they need to get done. This is all part of goal setting. No, but people just want to wing it. No, you need to be able to understand and learn this kind of stuff, figure this out, think it through. The last one is probably the obvious one that everybody likes to work on, and that's how are you going to get there? How are you going to get there? This is a conversation around chunking information down, and our process is called the wrap sheet. We have wrap sessions every week, right? Weekly results and planning. How do you plan to get there? You got to build a plan. And then you're going to progressively move through that process, one step at a time, to make progress and get where you want to go. That's how you set goals. All these 6 things I just gave you, you set it this way, you filter it all through that, and then you're going to have a much more solid conversation. And then from there, we go through the wrap sheet process, the wrap sessions, and maintain progress. Then we get flexible on our approach. So anyway, we follow the feedback and so on. Those are the 6 things I wanted to share with you guys tonight. Go get the book, momentumandmastery.com. And I would love to see you at a Unshakable weekend event as we start rolling them out in different locations. If you need something from me, let me know. By the way, this group now is at 250 people. I would love to see us double that number. Share it with your friends. Let them know Spencer Uncensored. I did drop enough bombs tonight. I'd say I apologize, but it is what it is. Guys, let's move forward. If you need anything from me, y'all know how to get in touch with me. It's been another episode of Spencer Uncensored. Y'all have a good night.